I came face to face with it first when I went to the Army. The Army was completely segregated, with the exception that when we finally got into combat in Italy, we had white commanders from the 92nd Division. I was in a unit called the 366th Infantry Combat Regiment, which was stationed in Fort Devens, Massachusetts. So on Pearl Harbor Day, when I received my telegram to report to duty in Fort Devens, Massachusetts, it would remain the first time I'd ever set foot above New York City in my life. I knew there was a Massachusetts, but I really, other than through geography, didn't know where it was. And there I was to report to that unit. When I reported to that unit, we were segregated on the post. We couldn't go to the white theaters on the Army post. We couldn't go to the swimming pools. We couldn't go to the PX. We couldn't go to any of the amenities and things that went along with that kind of Army life at the time. We were segregated into a far off post on the Fort Devens grounds.
That must have been a tremendous shock.
It was a shock to me. It was a shock. It was a cultural shock, first of all, because here I am, been having my own bathroom, and I'm going singing a toilet with men right next to me, with no partition and all. Showers were the same, so it was a cultural shock. Racially, I began to feel the sting of segregation, because I saw what they had and what we had, and it was by no means equal. It was far from equal. And then I knew what we went through, what our colonel went through in trying to protect us, even when we went overseas. A black MP couldn't arrest a white soldier. MP being a military police.
Right. Did it make you angry? Did it make you sad?
Yes, it made me angry and sad, both. I was angry about the condition. Here we were there, overseas, risking our lives, fighting for freedom, fighting this Aryan maniac who was trying to take over the world and persecute all the Jews and everything else, all the ills that came from it. And we are back at home. We were living in a segregated society, discriminated upon, and we were fighting for freedom. But think about that. We were dying, risking our lives. We lost almost half of our regiment in combat. And some of the tales are just atrocious. Poor records or no records kept of the heroics by our men. Years later, I think in the 1990s, several of them got Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously, but it took that long. 50 some odd years before that was recognized. But it was it was worse than that, because what we were doing most of the time was guard duty. They didn't want to put us in combat because they didn't believe that a black soldier should be fighting, have guns, and be shooting bullets. They didn't think he had the courage. They didn't think he had the intelligence. They just didn't think he should be in combat. It was already all right for him to do guard duty, which was just a step above common labor duty, and they were certainly satisfied with that because that had to be done. And that's what a lot of our soldiers did in that war. It was a terrible, all wars are terrible, but it was and they say, well, you glorify the war, World War II, as compared to Vietnam, or compared to any other war we've been in, and Desert Storm, which was really not a war in the sense as we knew it, as veterans understood it at any rate. But they just did not believe that we should be up there. And they didn't put us in combat until the Negro Press, Afro-American, the Tribune, the Chicago paper, and several others were back home protesting that we were trained to be combat soldiers and we ought to be in combat. And then we were put under the command of a man by the name of Almond, General Almond. I think I forget when he came, but he headed up the 92nd Division, to which we were attached. And he made a horrible speech saying, look, all right, your people back there want you in, so okay, we're going to put you in and you're going to share your casualties, you get your share. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible speech.
Making it clear that they didn't really want you.
Did not want you. They had no place for us. There was never any plan, as we found out, to use us, even though they talked about it. There was never a plan to use Negroes in a combat infantry regiment or division in that war. Never. They didn't plan that.